of the day.
Rebel, hello. Hi,
yeah,
we're in.
yeah. What's
Rebel,
up? Yeah, I
what on
realized.
earth is
Hello.
behind you?
It's probably my air conditioner. I can turn it
Okay.
off. Hold on a second.
All good, mate. I came in muted as well, so it's honestly just a fantastic start. I love producing, but we do have SGB taking on SE, a matchup of two teams still really looking to prove themselves in this split. Though obviously SGB had a pretty good outing against GARM that was definitely fairly convincing. But what do you think of these two? Where are you leaning?
Cool. Okay. Well, I mean, as of this game, I think we actually have really competitive combination of these two teams. I'm waiting on bated breath because we got three lanes that are on the verge of just like losing my ears and watching Emperor just auto attack Hosmed to death.
Kale has a ridiculous level 1. People forget she has one of the best level 1s in the game.
Mm-hmm. Especially with lethal, because it looked like Emperor actually got lethal proc right there, and so Emperor I think literally hit Hosmed with like 4 auto attacks right there. Especially with the auto cancel, it's just too impossible to deal with if you're Hosmed. Too bad there's no like dive coming through here from DNK. DNK's pathing down, so that does kind of suck. But like I mean, doesn't matter because Emperor is just bullying the matchup already.
Yeah, and I mean, Enpa has been so impressive recently. I never thought I'd look at this lane and say, yeah, Hosmed's going to have to fight for his life up there.
No, especially not like super early, right? Like it's easy enough to play decently safe as the Gwen. If you go like E start and you're able to play a little bit defensively, it should be fine into the Kale. But it just not how it worked out in the earlier stage. But I want to come back to the original point because again, the original point is how do you think the two teams are doing? I think it's a really good combination of teams to talk about because again, SBTC, a lot of these players are coming back for the first time, trying to make sure that people know that they're some of the best, right? Like Dia1's making a resurgence, DNK is trying to prove that he's one of the best, Emperor is trying to establish himself as the best top laner, I think. And on the other side, I mean, SGB was a representative at MSI. I think it's really easy to just be like, hey, they should be the number 2 team. And so to walk in and have a really bad week number 1, I mean, this is where, things can turn for themselves. Winning against the number 1 team now, winning against GAM, the previous champion, I think would be enough proof to show that Saigon is at least a competitor for the number 1 position coming out of this split.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But yeah, if you pick up a win here, particularly if it's in a fairly dominant fashion, then suddenly SGB is not just competing for second. But of course, second is still very valuable in the VCS. We do get 2 world slots. Ooh, but hello, DNK having a mosey to the top lane, but Husband sniffs it out and he's already gone.
Yeah, I actually snuck in between the wave. I don't think they ever saw DNK either, so that was actually really impressive pathing from him just to not get spotted out by the minions. But like you said, yeah, Hosmed able to just get out of dodge as fast as possible, find himself a back, and doesn't end up falling victim to anything. And worst case scenario, I mean, DNK hangs around up here, but at least now BJ is around in the area, able to do quite a bit as well.
Gwen can just buy so much time. Very hard for Lee Sin to actually gank her with that W. Down on the bot side, we do see the trap lane, as I call it, the Lucian Nami. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm not sure how I feel about Shogun going to this Aphelios.
Yeah, it was interesting because I'd seen some mild opportunities for it where it's like there are specific lanes that like are decent. I'm guessing what had happened is that they saw the Lucian get picked up and they said, okay, we could go Aphelios because we assume that they're going to take Nami. And then as soon as the Nami's locked in, they knew that they wanted to do Aphelios Renata just as fast as possible. And if something else were to come through, they might have gone to like a different support pick. Like if Braum had come through, they tried to do Lucian Braum. What is going on right now?
Lucian Nami, the unstoppable lane bully duo, once again showing off their prowess and why this pick is just so strong, Rebel.
we always get complaints about how this is one of the strongest bot lanes, and yet nobody is able to actually full bully it, right? And yet here we are, always watching it somehow not win the laning phase as hard as it should. Whether that's a player diff or not is, I guess, up for question. But I mean, it's not looking like that big of a player diff. It seems like they're just getting bullied out. So.
Yeah, and that's Summoner spells. To be fair, there was flashing Nightburn from Taki.
Yes.
So we don't want to be inaccurate. Obviously, there was an attempt, probably off of a handshake. Enper's already gotten to level 6, and I mean, I feel like if Kale is zoning you off the wave early on, you're in a lot of trouble.
I agree with that sentiment. In fairness, now she's a ranged champion. She has more than enough to work with against Hosmed. Hosmed just has to play super defensively. Artie is going to go armored just to make sure the auto attacks aren't going to hit that hard. It's just interesting that we haven't really seen interaction from either like BJ or DNK yet, because I was like kind of anticipating pretty quick interaction with these two, right? You've got decent mid laners to try to break out because they can have some influence over top of the side lanes. You've got good top lanes to play for because both of them are really good team fighters. And then, of course, bottom lane is like you got Lucian, Nami, and then you got like Aphelios and Renata. So like you can easily start tipping the scale one direction or the other. We've just seen no interaction. It's just been full farming and now a dragon, I suppose, taken from the side of BJ. But outside of that, it really has just been one little trade-off by one little trade-off.
Yeah, I think that really does throw a bit of a wrench in SE's plans, the fact that they don't get this first dragon. You don't want to play to your top side if you don't have to when you have a Kayle. Oh no, Celebrity goes down. Shogun finds the chakrams into him, dodges the bubble as well, and he'll get out. Rebel, that's a disaster.
It's fight time. I mean, he had red-white. He should have known exactly what was coming. Okay, we're not done. And BJ steals that away with an auto attack.
DNK smited it, and then BJ just hit it with a stick. I mean, that's rough. DNK is going to keep on going forward, because obviously Froggy, very, very low, can't really come help his jungle.
Yeah, he can poke around in the area. There's a ward here for DNK.
They're actually going to go in. There's the Demonic Ascension, but look at the damage going out immediately onto the Swain. He falls. Ari will go down onto the backside now to 1v1 between the junglers, but BJ has towers to get to. So in the end, it is just going to be the mid laners falling.
Yeah, trade of both junglers getting a kill as well. Ultimately, I don't think that really matters. Like, you lose your Ari or your Swain. It's just a matter of whose gold is actually more valuable. Here is the play on the bottom side is, it's just a nice grab him from Shogun. And then he gets red-white. It's just like perfect gun setup from that point.
That was fantastic Aphelios play.
Yeah, absolutely. Shogun, he gets more and more impressive by the minute. Like, he had a really solid performances in the bottom lane, I think, at MSI. And ever since then, Shogun has just stood out as being a player that's like, at one point, I considered Shogun to be a great number 2 carry for the team, and somebody else just needed to stand forward. But it seems like Shogun's actually been taking up the mantle of the number 1 recently. And I can appreciate it because, again, I think that's what Saigon was really missing for a good amount of time, especially in winter. They were really missing a number 1 carry, and Shogun's definitely filled that void.
So we have a second replay of this. I'm surprised that this Swain just really could do nothing.
I am also a little bit shocked about it. Now, I do give props to Dia1 because it seemed like right there, it would have been easy enough to just die, allow for the Ari to get out. But I think Dia1 kind of tunnel visioned on making sure that the E was going to snag Froggy so that DNK could actually come in and clean up the kill. And that's exactly what happened because Froggy ended up getting locked up even with a third ultimate charge. So, good on DNK to just know that he was probably dead to rights and he just needed to be able to punish that. As continuously, Celebrity and Paulette are just getting barraged by Shogun and Taki down here. Goodness gracious.
See, on the Shogun point, leading up to MSI, of course, us at VCS English talked to quite a lot of people about SGB, and I always just describe Shogun as, he's the most boring player on the team, but he's pretty good. Turned out I was very wrong, because he has been an absolute godsend as a culling is ripped out onto Taki. That wave dissuades the dive, but they're just getting another tower play against Lucian Nami.
It's insane. I mean, like I said, recently the complaints about this lane really have been just brought to fruition, which is that there has never been a situation where it feels like there's a lot of players that have been able to fully punish and use the Lucian Nami to its fullest extent.
Into the Demonic Ascension, but he's going to get cycloned. He is screwed. Wukong picks up that kill. BJ will be very happy.
There's even a move from Hosman there just to make sure that it was going to come through. It's been nice. BJ has started to really interact ever since the level 6 mark. We've seen a lot more. As Hosmet, I think, had just one more ult charge and just dumped it and tried to throw it into Emperor, who's currently crushing Hosmet, has a 2-wave advantage and also is crashing wave.
Be careful, though.
He finds
Taki's here, throws out the hostile takeover, doesn't quite tag, but does stop any 1v1 attempt.
I can really appreciate the attempt there because it was thrown at a very predictive angle to the positioning that he was going to be at, but they're not done yet.
No, they're not. Emperor stepped back up, obviously has access to the ultimate, but the bailout's there as well. That's just never going to work out. Enpa, that was just silly.
Yeah, I mean, once he stepped back into lane, I think that was just a death sentence. As soon as Taki could enter the lane from basically the same position he was at, there's just no reason for him to be there in the slightest. So a very rare mistake from one of our favorite top laners for the entire split so far, because he's been incredible up to this point. But again, that was just a little bit of a boneheaded mistake, something similar and akin to what we have seen from Emperor in the past before this split, when he was really taking over. So, I mean, this is a really weird position to be in because we anticipated that this was supposed to be one of our top teams. Even yesterday, I remember talking about it with the analyst desk, and they were telling me that this is a team that like we're considering to be one of the top in the league, somebody that might be contesting for a number one spot eventually. And yet here's Saigon just kind of slapping them around a little bit.
I mean, I think SBTC is very weird because we know that their peak is extremely high. Like Dia 1, if he plays on form, he's, before his break and, that one split on SBTC before his ban, he was the best player in the league. He still holds the solo kill record of any Worlds qualifying region from that one split. It was absolutely absurd. Enpa, this split so far has had incredibly high highs as well. But the lows of this team are also pretty catastrophic. So they're so hard to read. And SGB, this week at least, have just looked like a pretty... Not even good in an interesting way. They're just good.
Oh, actually, okay, we have a little bit of... little bits. We'll see. I guess it's just Hospital getting caught is the only thing I'm waiting for here because I don't think it's actually going to happen.
DNK boots him back. He still has a tower to try and get to, but Enpa just whipping that sword back and forth. Can skip and snip over the wall, but Enpa will go with him. Husman taking so long to die, but die he does as Shogun throws out the red ult, desperately trying to survive until his team can reinforce. He does a lot of damage, falls in the end, but BJ avenges him.
It ends up being a 2-for-1. The biggest thing is that while Aphelios didn't pick up that kill, it did get first tower on his own and picked up all the plates from that tower. Now, Kale split it with DNK a little bit. They did get the kill, at least, on top side, which ends up being kind of the difference maker in a little bit. But again, first tower gold under your Aphelios feels like a really good place to be, as now, all of a sudden we're in a position where it feels like it's going to be Emperor versus Shogun on cross sides of the map, where it seems like SBTC has now been leaning into their top laner being the primary carry for the team. On the Kale, that's obviously a good thing. And you're seeing this was like a position.
Mosquito bites from Kale.
Little tiny mosquito bites. Now, eventually those get a lot more harmful when the time comes. But this was a lot to expend into just a single kill, which is why I was so confused because they burnt both flashes on their top champions and ultimates on both sides as well. Like, it's just kind of crazy to me how much they spent for basically only the payoff of one additional kill because they're trying to grasp at the straw of making sure Emperor's strong enough for this game.
Yeah, and it is going to be a very important straw, and I want to get your opinion just while we have a moment on Kale builds, because we see the Wit's End coming in. That tells me AD Kale. What do you think?
Yeah, okay, so there are two ways that you could then enhance the Kale, which is both through Imperial Mandates, through both the Nami and then also through the Swain eventually when the time comes. Swain is more about making sure that the Imperial Mandate's going to land. Nami's going to be helpful for that, but also could go into things that give additional magic damage on hits. So while it could be AD Kale, I think that's... That may or may not be the decision. That could also just be a laning decision because it's like, okay, you're playing against an AP champion. You don't really want to build Maw, I suppose. So it's like, okay, I guess you could build Wit's End because it gives you the magic resist, gives you the attack speed. But I don't think it matters in this game whether you go AP or AD because eventually you're going to have the magic damage one way or another with these like supportive type champions adding it into your kit.
That's a fair point. As Shogun Gale forces forward, puts a lot of damage down onto Celebrity. Nothing lethal, but should diffuse any SBTC push in the middle.
Ooh, okay. Are we getting a not as classic recently, but a Rift Herald flip coming out from both teams? I'm excited for it. It's been a while.
I don't know if SC wants to step up here. DNK might try and make something happen, but how do you walk into the Renata? I just don't think you can.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can either. Instead, I think they're making the right decision by just pushing a mid lane. I was hoping that they would commit Kale potentially to even throwing in auto attacks because you have escape routes. You know where all five are. Oh, BJ looked for a second. The flash, I could sense that he was going to flash ultimate into 5 people.
Honestly, BJ 99 times out of 100 flashes there.
Oh, yeah, I think it was just a question of where was Taki at. Because if Taki was in a really bad position to try to Renata ultimate and would have had to flash as well, then maybe they don't think that play works out. But again, if you're able to like flash Renata ult and flash Cyclone at exactly the same time and all 5 members end up auto-attacking each other, it would have been huge. As Shogun also unfortunately misses the Moonlight Vigil, which could have been an additional kind of throw into that big AoE. That time just fishing for something, just trying to make sure that Celebrity and Paulette feel a little bit more pressure.
Froggy on the run away from DNK. Friends are coming.
Ooh.
There's a culling going out, but stopwatch value as Froggy baits the hook and reels him in.
Well played by Froggy right there, just making sure that he's able to cancel out the damage from both the ultimate coming out from Celebrity and then also DNK. And DNK was already low. Like best case scenario, you're trading 1-for-1 right there. But again, I don't know. To me, it seems like SBTC they're doing a really weird job in this game of just trying to like pull kills and pull random like things rather than trying to build some sort of cohesive plan around something. Like you had said, the early dragon stacking feels like it's something that they should have been putting some effort towards, especially with like the early game like Lucian and Nami, and yet they weren't able to do that. The Rift Heralds have been split at this point. There's a ton of gold inside of Shogun's Aphelios, so it's like they haven't really accomplished anything that they're looking to accomplish. So now they're just trying to get gold where they need it to go, right? They're trying to throw as much gold as they can into Emperor, but it's just not like that's not a game plan that you want to walk into a game like being like, oh yeah, we're just going to put gold in one of our carries. That's not good enough, I don't think, for this level of play.
So just zooming out a little bit and talking a little bit more holistically about the situation of the game, I feel like we might be headed for like a little bit of almost trench warfare in that neither team wants to run at the enemy. They both want to get ran at. Obviously, everyone knows running at an Aphelios is just asking to give him a pentakill. And running at a Swain and a Kayle is kind of the same thing. So it really feels like we might get to a situation where, you know, Baron's on the cards and both teams are just sitting there going, no, you engage. No, you engage.
I think the one difference here is that there's really easy forcing buttons from Saigon if they find an opportunity. So it's like, okay, if Taki finds a really good ultimate, you can follow it effectively with BJ, with Hosmed, with a Shogun like Moonlight Vigil. To me, they have a bit more range on their engage as opposed to like DNK basically has to just like ward hop flash and try to kick somebody into multiple members, or you have to pick somebody with Swain, or you have to find a Nami wave. These are really like, they're like almost non-committal engagement tools that like SE have like at their disposal. So they would like to get run at very effectively. Saigon does both pretty decently. I would agree with you. I think Saigon would also prefer to be ran at if at all possible. But they could find opportunities. Like we said, like that flash into a 5-person cyclone from BJ was a really good example of like, they could have made that engagement probably work very effectively for themselves if everybody's in the right position. They just have to make sure they're there, which is another portion of this that, like, again, Saigon controls a little bit of the engage of this game.
Yeah, just to me, I hate seeing Renata ult used as an engage tool because I just think it's possibly the best disengage ult in the game, or at least up there. Husmed clears up the bottom lane. Enpar has a 50 CS lead.
Yes, Emperor is very strong right now. Like I said, I think the wholest intention is just to put as much CS into Emperor as possible. Now, that does also goad the fear of like, okay, if Taki hits Emperor with an ultimate, that's not good. That's not very good for the side of SE.
Yeah, it's not great, but it does, like, you set this up earlier. It does kind of feel like it's Emperor and the boys versus Shogun and the guys.
Me and the dudes?
Yeah, just me and the dudes.
Shogun.
Yeah.
Watching Shogun and the guys play against Emperor and the boys. Yeah, that's always fun. That's an enjoyable stream title. Maybe we'll have to switch between the break here.
But like this game, it just feels like it's just going to come down to, can you catch Kayle or can you catch Aphelios?
Yeah, slowly we're kind of stripping away like the carrier potential of a number of these players, at least before really late itemization. So like eventually there will be a time where like Froggy has some threat, Hosmed has some threat. On the opposite side, like DNK's kicks are still going to do some damage. Celebrity's going to have some damage. DO1's never going to have damage with the build they've gone for. So really, eventually, like we said, we've been stripping away the layers of these multiple champions that could really do damage. And we've landed in a place where it's like it's Emperor and the other side it's Shogun. And that's really what we're looking at. And then supplemental damage, like considering that, I think that's something else to eventually consider is like frontline, engage, all these other things. The big thing to me is, again, BJ has perhaps the best engage in this game and also is fed, so has some of the most damage in this game as well, which makes this so much easier to me from the side of Saigon. Is, again, if you're talking about, getting the guys, like one of the guys is BJ, and BJ is in a great position to have impact this game.
Well, Rebel, everything you're saying is obviously correct, and when Shogun and the Emperor last fought in Japanese history, the Shogun won. So SGB, history says they win, but does the game agree? We'll have to find out as this one continues to go on. Looking at it though, this is a very low kill game for the VCS. 9 kills in 21 minutes. Absolutely glacial. Where is our next point of pressure? I mean, Dragon Soul in 40 seconds? Does SE just give up a Cloud Soul?
They might, honestly. There's no buff yet, so they're not that concerned with the stacking mechanism. The Cloud Soul, I don't know that it wins the game. I do think it suddenly also makes Saigon's engage a little bit easier to try to manage when it comes to finding a play into SE. When we were talking about how easy it is to actually find an engagement, I think it does become easier, so Saigon can make some more forcing moves with this Cloud Soul. But I don't think it's not the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? We talked about valuable straws a little bit earlier on, but this is not, to me, the one that they have to destroy themselves over. What?
NJ looked for it, but it was disengaged very quickly by Paulette's wave.
Okay. Interesting. All right. They're just going to go for mid tower, I think, just pull gold. Like I said, I don't think they actually care all that much about this. I was just a little confused because it seemed like BJ wanted to jump in on multiple members. He hit one with Cyclone, and then, like you said, the wave came in, and just he bailed on the play as fast as possible, as fast as it started. He was like, okay, I'm done, and just like left, maybe thinking that SE weren't going to actually do anything. That is going to be soul point taken. The problem is they don't have that big of a gold lead for this, so maybe this is actually a bad thing because, of course, like Elder Dragon is going to be on the table as a win condition now for SE, and maybe that's the whole intention here from them is like they're like, yeah, we don't have to really get this dragon. You're just going to give us another win con in the Elder Soul, and this doesn't give you that much, I guess, is their intention here.
I mean, maybe it's certainly that's a very bold play.
Weird, yeah.
But, I mean, maybe you can get your Kale up to 16. BJ has to flash away, and now SGB are very out of position. This is not where you want to be. The Renata ult does go on to D1, but he immediately just turns gold. SGB are able to evacuate, and this whole time, Husband's just been hitting a tower.
What? Okay. Yeah, we're still just like... This has been such a weird iteration of a League of Legends game because we haven't been doing anything for like 10 minutes and then we get this big cluster around mid lane and still nothing happens the whole time. It's just Saigon getting chased by SE, and the whole time Houseman's in the bottom lane like being chilling, just taking towers as best as possible. It's so this is like a Yakety Sax episode of League of Legends.
It feels like they're playing touch League of Legends instead of full contact. Like, come on, somebody hit someone. Kill them!
See, it's really funny because I always theorize that this is how scrims go when you're in the VCS because our games are so active and so kill intensive that like they play actual attempted macro games when it comes to scrims, and this is looking like a scrim block from the VCS right now, of being one of those things.
We're the only region in the world that plays less aggressive in scrims.
It's one of those things where their limit testing is actually just their intelligence rather than their hands, because their hands are so good anyway. So they just like limit test how good they are at like reading the map, and that's why their scrims are weird. They did, which is interesting because also Kale's on bottom side trying to collect as much as possible. They easily get this, and even if there's a fight again, I don't think. Okay,
Kale has no TP. I guess they don't realize that.
Maybe the other thing is like I guess they're trying to figure out what the Baron does for them because they're trying to figure out whether or not top outer, top inner, mid inner are all valuable. And if they think that the Kale getting the gold is not as valuable as what they would have wanted from the Baron, maybe that's the problem because Emperor slowly is scaling up. We're one level from the rage of the level 16, has probably some of the most gold in the game if we ever see like the gold value.
Lovely dodge with that Spirit Rush there. Threads the needle. Now a Gravitum in onto DNK. He's in so much trouble, but a really good dash into the flash. BJ now over the wall. Renata ult not doing much of anything. Dia 1 has the Demonic Ascension, but he is without any friends. Flashes away, goes down. SGB cleaning SE off the map. Froggy lands a charm. Celebrity can't kill him. And that's going to be that Baron. Finally, Enpa is here, but it's 3v5.
Yes, but there are no ultimates on the side of Saigon Buffalo, and the only real CC that they've got to make sure that Emperor has to respect positioning is gone in Froggy. Has the TV to come back. I feel like they have to wait.
Emperor going low, uses the Divine Intervention, moves over, tries to kill BJ, but kills the clone! BJ goes gold in the back of the pit. Now the Baron will finally go down. As BJ almost looked like he thought he was dead there. But no, he's okay. Oh my word. Game of inches is League of Legends.
Yeah, we're finally finding our first real, like, full engagement of the game. It only took us like 15 minutes to finally get eventually what was our 10th kill of the entire game, but it all came at once because it's Saigon who've been playing so respectfully around the fact that there is a Kale, that there is everything else coming about. It all came off the back of Froggy finding this great dodge, them finding DNK, who almost makes the outplay of a lifetime to smite that, except that BJ and Hosmed were already on the flank angle ready for this fight. And this was really crazy because they got a decent escape. They got this nice stopwatch from Dia and pulled enough health that I was concerned that Saigon was going to end up losing this engagement off the back of, again, Kale being here and Froggy without the charm not being capable of pushing back the positioning of Emperor. But as it turns out, they had more than enough with just the 4 members alone to be able to deal with this, which is crazy. Now, I need to see how Emperor actually lost to get him out of the health bar. The Gravitum, I think it was lack of focus right there. I felt like all 3 of these members from the side of SE weren't really focusing on the right person, the right target during the course of this fight. And if they had picked one specific place to go to, one specific place to attack, then maybe it would have been a lot better, a lot more clear with what they wanted to accomplish.
And I mean, at some point you do also have to bring up the fact that why was SBTC there when Enper can't join the fight with Teleport?
Great question.
I mean, if Enper had been there that entire fight, I think the Kale makes an absolutely huge difference. You can see how powerful he is, but yeah, okay, Kale can't win 3v5. So I feel like that's just bad decision making from DNK to be that far forward when your Kale is in base.
I agree with that sentiment. Again, that whole bit of play over that 2-minute span where it was a fake Baron from Saigon, them responding to bot wave, then going back into their own jungle as DNK had pushed forward. It was just a strange little set of maneuvers, but it ends up working out very effectively. And now Saigon Buffalo, they command a 6k gold lead, 7k gold lead, something like that. Froggy and DNK having some fun on the side here.
DNK, you have to know that you're never going to get out of this one. That's a really bad decision, in my opinion. On the other side of the fight, we do have a collapse onto Hosmed. DNK finally falls, but Hosmed gets away on 80% health, helped out by BJ. Where's DNK? He's turning into Does Not Know.
It's kind of crazy to see everything
that's
happening.
He's dead with an Elder Dragon on the map.
Yep, it's too easy for them to actually accomplish this. Because like I said, he's fishing really heavily. He's just multiple times now just found an engagement into Froggy, and Froggy's an Ahri who has Azonias and has all these defensive tools that just why are you doing this in the first place? So now, I mean, Elder Drake, Baron, I mean, that's everything they could want. They just have to push in one kind of consistent move. They're going to lose their Baron, I think, in about 10 seconds here, something like that. But still, Elder Dragon should be more than enough for them to feel confident walking into just about any fight. And it should wrap this game up with a nice bow for the side of Saigon.
Yeah, I really don't see what the fight back is. Obviously, there's still a level 16 Kale. It's not what it once was, but it's still incredibly powerful. There is a chance of Enper just absolutely monstering a fight, but against an Elder Drake, that Divine Intervention loses a lot of value. Because of course you come out of the Divine Intervention and just die. So this is really, really hard, and I think this just has to come back to some criticism of DNK. Even if you 1-for-1 with the Ahri there, you're the jungler and there's an Elder Dragon on the map. SGB doesn't care.
No, they don't. It was a really strange situation because it felt like Saigon Buffalo actually won this game by winning bot lane so quickly that from level 1, the fact that the solution Nami combination never got off the ground meant that SE was just without a lot of the bones of their early game composition, and they bailed on the early game just as fast as possible to put gold into Emperor, and they're just relying on the Kale full carrying them. But again, Saigon Buffalo's got better tools, I think, for full fighting in a 5-on-5. They've got somebody who can kind of match the damage of the Kale and is further ahead in a game like this in that in the Aphelios on the bottom side of the map, and now they're just kind of reaping what they sowed here.
I 100% agree. I think they are some very good farmers. As Enper moving forward onto Hosmed. I don't even know if he wins that fight with an Elder Dragon buff. A lot of damage. There's the Divine Intervention being used. And in the mid lane, it is the Aphelios moving forward. Shogun extremely fast. Kale has now fallen. DNK will go down next. Nice. As the dragons begin to roar. Shogun, be careful. Under 2 towers. He just about lives. Inhibs falling. And this should be the game. And honestly, in what was a very bizarre game of League of Legends, SGB never looked particularly stressed. They never looked particularly pressed for answers. They just take a really, really good win.
This, to me, is how I expected Saigon to come